Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm making this video. I've been getting a lot of questions lately that are all very similar but slightly different, mostly in regards to how I'm doing my TA and what indicators I'm using and how do I do the wave count, things like that. How am I reading price action? So I wanted to try and make this video to encompass everyone's question and hopefully knock out one video that can pertain to what a lot of y'all's questions have been lately. So when I first would open a brand new coin, we got AOA here. This is what you'd see. And the first thing I'm going to do is probably go out to like a 1 week chart. And we don't have a ton of price action here, so I'll slowly start going in and see what a 5 day chart looks like. For this one, I'm gonna run on a 3 day chart, and I would first start looking for a count. So we go to our beginning of our price action. Anytime you have this with a new coin, you're gonna have some scammy price action over here, some insane pumps real quick. So you can get somewhat of a count out of this. A lot of times you won't be able to, but there we have our ABC up, and then we're from up here we're going to have our A wave down, our B wave high, and our C wave down. So that would have been a great entry for a long right here, and then this is where we are on price action now. So a lot of coins on the macro perspective like this are actually still going to be in a correction. AOA, on the other hand, is actually in now its wave up. So we're likely looking at an A wave and a B wave, and then we're looking for some type of C wave. And I'll zoom in a little bit here so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So here's an A wave, and you say, well, why is that the A wave? Well, one, this is the highest high just by ever so slightly. This is the A wave. This is getting close. This actually came up and back tested it, which you can see happen, but I'm gonna get further into that. So this is our A wave right now, and you say, well, why isn't this your A wave? Well, it could be, but I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So let's stick with this idea first. So you get here on your price action and you're wondering how to get the count. So right away, this looks like the A wave to me. It matches up pretty nicely with how these waveforms, the length of them, and how they look. So that's what I'm going to go with, at least to have a rough start. So then I'll have my B wave down, and that would mean I'm looking for my C wave high over here. So we need to get somewhere over here. Okay. And you say, well, why would that be correct? Would this not be an ABC right here, maybe? So let's look at that. So we have our A and our B wave, and then our C wave high. Why couldn't we be now in a correction? And you know what? You're probably right. That is ABC. You have a good eye. So we're likely in an ABC right here, but it doesn't really match up with what we typically would see in this price action. So what that ABC likely is going to be the sub ABC of the much larger ABC move. You see that? And you say, well, why would that possibility be correct? Well, we just made our ABC here, and we're on a 3 day chart, so it's kind of hard to read this B wave action. So let's go in a little bit further, and that lets us kind of read this a little bit better. So now in our B wave, we would have our A wave down, our B wave high, and our C wave low. And then you could even play the sub wave of when you wanted to get in. You extend it all the way over here, and boom, then all of a sudden you have a story, right? Now that brings us right to where the current price action is. Move this out of the way. All right, so now this whole line is going to be a support and resistance line, right? So we can see price action, boom, 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 boom. You finally got up. It almost got our back test there. And again, this is just playing a subwave. This is the subwave of the much larger B wave. Okay. So then let's continue on here. So if that's the sub ABC, then we would have right now our A wave starting of potentially a much larger C wave. And it could possibly look something like that. That subwave or that subwave count is pretty rough, but you could potentially be looking at something like that. Perhaps. Let's bring it back out to the 3 day and kind of see what that looks like. So that's a possibility. Again, I'm not saying that's correct. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Don't even look where I dropped these. I just dropped them at the random part of the chart just to kind of give you an idea of how you would operate that count. So let's get these subwaves out of the way to really see what we're looking at. And there's our final picture or draft or what we think could be happening on this price action. And those waves would actually match up pretty dang well with how these waves were moving, how that price action looked. So that's the first part. That's, like I said, that's just one facet of evaluating a coin. Let's see what else. So if we wanted to say this was the C wave up, if you want to then know when to short, then we would have that. And wherever the C wave comes up, then once you know you get below the A, you come down, you back test it. There you go. And again, the ABC count that's just one part of analyzing the coin. So let's move on to what I would do next. Okay. So now I would just go in and look at the price action by itself. What kind of trends do we have? Trend lines. So right off the bat, I kind of see a trend line up right here. Let me get that in focus better for y'all. So right off the bat, we got some type of trend line up here. And this is on a 3 day, so it's kind of rough. But you can see with respect to this trend line, you had a little dip below where you then flipped it into resistance and were bouncing, and you finally broke back up. If you were to zoom in on this price action, you could see this in more detail, right? So we go in on, let's just dive in on a 12-hour chart here. So you can see that price broke, you got some sort of back test, and then you had your blast off there. Get back to the 3 day, sorry. So we have some type of trend line here, okay? And let's see what else we can gather here. So then automatically you see you got some type of trend line up here, and you're looking to get as many touches as you can. Some people will say do just the candle bodies. Jeez Louise. Some people say get as many touches as possible. Should put it like right here. This is where I would put it. And you say, why would you put it there? I would put it there because you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches of that trend line. And again, this is on a zoomed out 3 day chart. So you go into a 1 day chart and you go down even more into like a 12-hour chart. And these candle bodies actually start getting closer and closer to that trend line, if that makes sense, right? Because it's a shorter time frame, where this is a much longer time frame. Would have had to stay up there for 3 days for that candle body to close up there. So that's where I put that trend line. But back to where we're looking at price action. So you find both those trend lines, and then bam, all of a sudden you have a pattern emerging, right? So if we get our path tool over here, you could expect price to maybe do something like this, right? And you say, well, where would price go out of here? So this is an ascending triangle, which is typically a bullish pattern that has a bias to break to the upside. So that's just another, I guess, part or idea we would gather to say, okay, that C wave that we just counted that we were putting up here somewhere, okay, this also favors that idea, right? So now we're evaluating that price action. And then that's kind of the second facet of what I do. And then I would go in and start looking at different indicators and tools. So you can go ahead and get these on your charts. I use the 20, 50, 100, and 200 day exponential moving average. And then down here, I use a market cipher. I use an RSI. And on the RSI, I have the link setting at 10. So then I would go in. So we've done our count. We know we're possibly looking for an A wave up here. We've evaluated price action. We've located a possible pattern. And then you notice if you just keep on drawing these trend lines out, you'll often find that across even historic price action, that was a point of resistance and or support at some time that came across all the way over here. So let's see what we can see with some of our indicators up here. One thing that I just automatically don't like is all this red cash flow down here. You would like to see some type of green cash flow up here. And I'll pull up no, I just leave it here. A lot of like you look at Bitcoin, you look at Ethereum, many other coins are going to have green cash flow on the macro view. But that's another thing. You can't just rely on an indicator to tell you exactly what the market's doing, right? Because we had all this move up, and yet we saw all this negative cash flow on a 3-day chart. Now, if you go into a 2-hour chart or something, you're obviously going to start getting green cash flow. Um, let's see. So negative cash flow, we have the VWAP coming down on a 3-day chart, which is a very macro view. So that could play in part with maybe the price action coming down here and hitting this trend line. On the RSI, I'm typically looking for any divergences in the price action. And you kind of see a medium grade one right here where you had pretty much the same exact high, maybe off by a minuscule amount. And yet the indicator on the RSI, the high was a lower high. And you even have a baby one. Look, so you draw this line up. So the high right here in price action is the highest point here. And then the price went even higher and the RSI went lower. So that could have been a great forecast of a short coming into play, right? Because we drew our ABC and we had this, I believe this was actually our B wave down. So if we would have tried to predict that B wave down, that would have been this. We have our resistance line up here. And also on the indicator, we have a bearish divergence on a 3-day macro chart. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that short. Thank you. And so then we bring down here down to the trend line. And now we're going up again, and we've made a almost exact same high. It looks like it's off by maybe a tiny bit. This one's maybe a tad lower, but we have a drastic lower low on the high in the RSI. Do you see that? And that's again just a bearish indicator to possibly come down here. And another thing is that you always have to take into account is what is Bitcoin doing? What is the total market cap doing? Obviously, Bitcoin is going to affect a lot of coins. So I do this full evaluation similar to what you just saw here. And don't forget to take into what Bitcoin's doing. Make sure you're watching the Bitcoin updates. And you may ask, I know I had a few people ask what this indicator is. This is Boom Hunter Pro. I don't use it too often for a novice trader. It's going to be very, very difficult to read and understand it. This is kind of like the ace in my pocket that I pull up every now and then to see, because every now and then this will offer some really great entry points. Let me see if I can find an example of it. There's a yellow line right here. It's the boom line. A lot of times when it comes down on a macro time frame, like you saw right here, yeah, so that's a pretty good example. So anytime you get one of these boom lines on a macro time frame, a lot of time, majority of time, you're going to get at least some type of price action up. And yeah, you can see that that led to 100%. Now that me just saying that just that line went down and went up 100%, please do not go get this indicator on your chart and buy all the crypto when this line goes down. You will get absolutely demolished. So just because that just said 100%, please do not do that because you will get absolutely wrecked. So that's it, pretty much the extent and the full capacity of what I would do for price action. This was just a small snippet of price action here, right? So this is now 2022, and it's just going back to the summer of 2020. So not too much. Obviously, if there was more price action, there'd be some more to evaluate there. But that's pretty much it. The one thing I didn't mention is the EMAs here, and anytime you're on top of these EMAs, you're in an uptrend. Essentially, it's kind of hard to see on this big macro view. So I'll go into a 4-hour chart and show you that. So you can see that when you're above these EMAs, you're trying to use these levels as support. And when you're below these EMAs, you're using these levels as resistances typically. And that's just a very basic take on them. Right. So this 200-day moving average, that's you could almost use that as just a huge support and resistance line for your whole chart, right? So try and not look at the green, the blue, and the yellow. Just check out this dark blue or dark purple, whatever it is, line, and you can see if you just look at just that one line, that's a pretty good telling of what the market's going to do. Right. So right now we're above that 200-day moving average, and you have a pretty good idea that on a macro view, you're looking, or sorry, at a 4-hour chart, you're looking at a pretty good uptrend right now. Okay. So that's about what I would do. I think I've tried to answer as many questions as I can think of. So now y'all know whenever y'all request for me to look at a chart, what I'm putting into it to really know what's going on and what is the video at. So we're at 18 minutes. So you tell me that y'all want a coin and it takes me, 20, 30 minutes to evaluate a coin. It kind of gives you an idea of why I may not have the time to get to everybody's because I certainly get a lot. But I'm working on getting a segment or a live video or something where I can get everyone's charts in and make sure I'm getting all y'all's questions answered. So like the video, comment, let me know what y'all think. If I still didn't answer something or I want to know something more clearly, go ahead and let me know. I don't mind responding or making another video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.